The information provided by Trading Forex Price Action to you does not constitute personal financial advice. The information provided is of a general nature only and does not take into account your individual objectives, financial situation, or needs. It should not be used, relied upon, or treated as a substitute for specific professional advice. Hey guys, this is a weekly forecast for May 16th through the 20th of 2022. Alright, let's start off with the Euro-Yen pair. Okay, this is a monthly chart. We'll start off with an overview. So since monthly strong long strength was just confirmed at this level right here, from this trend line breakout from this pivot to this pivot right here, as you can see, there's a breakout and immediate break back in, confirming normal short strength. Our price came right back up to that pivot high where that normal short strength was creating, and thus creating monthly strong long strength. And so in the long term, I'm long biased right back up to this pivot high right here. And moreover, since there was a weekly long trade that formed right here and a weekly short trade that formed right here, and for the time being, this weekly long trade is stronger than this short trade. So in the medium term, I'm also long biased right back up to this pivot high right here. Okay, let's talk entries. Okay, this is a weekly chart. So the last weekly long trade that formed was right here. And the last weekly short trade that formed was right here. And again, going strictly from this weekly strength, this long trade is stronger than this short trade. So the weekly bias is long. Or in other words, price is likely to reach this pivot high before reaching this pivot low. And so for the past 2 weeks, I've been looking for possible mid-road long entries along with this weekly bias with the main target at this pivot high right here. So let me show you what's happening on the lower time frames in terms of this long entry. Let's go over to the 4-hour chart. Okay, so on this 4-hour chart, for the last 2 weeks in these areas right here, price was pretty much ranging, showing confirmation of short strength and moreover long strength. Let me just quickly go over this with you. So initially, there was strong long strength confirmed from this trend line, from this pivot to this pivot. As you can see, there was a breakout, an immediate break back in. Our price pulled all the way back up to that pivot high right here, creating strong long strength. And so at this point, I was waiting for a pullback down to this pivot low right here as a stop loss for a long entry. However, as price ranged throughout the week, on this pullback down, this was actually the NFP day. And as you guys know, I do not take pullback entries that are based on NFP catalysts. Okay, so I did not take this long entry opportunity. And then as price ranged around, at this point right here, there was actually strong short strength confirmed. And that's from this trend line, from this pivot to this pivot right here. As you can see, there's a breakout, an immediate break back in, and right away, price came right back down to stop out that pivot low, and thus creating strong short strength. And then after that strong short strength was confirmed, price continued down all the way down to these levels. Now, moreover, I did not take this short entry because I'm only looking for possible mid-road long entries along with that monthly strong long strength. Okay, so at this point, let me show you what I'll be looking for in terms of that long entry. Just zoom out here. All right, so try drawing this trend line from this pivot to this pivot right here. Now, if price could come up to this trend line, break it out, immediately break back in, creating normal short strength. However, price still comes back up to that pivot high where that normal short strength was created. This will show strong 4-hour long strength. And this will be a mid-road long entry opportunity for me with the stop loss at the pivot low where the strong long strength was created. Okay, and you want to remember, since the last lower confirmation was on this 4-hour chart at this point right here, I'm going to need a 4-hour and above strong long strength confirmation in order to take this mid-road long entry. Okay, and lastly, let me show you one last thing on the daily chart. Okay, so on this daily chart, as you can see right here, there was a fake HNS that formed. And this HNS is a fake because the prior trend is not in the opposing direction. All right, let me just show that to you. Okay, so that fake daily HNS is right here. And the prior trend is not in the opposing direction, which is long, because there are higher highs on the left side of this chart right here, which shows that the prior trend is actually still short. Okay, so let me just zoom back in. All right, so this fake HNS that formed right here, if this reaches its target height level, roughly in these areas right here, that is a cause for concern in terms of that monthly strong long strength. Or in other words, there are times when the lower time frames price pattern shows strong strength in the opposing direction, which will be short in this case, that can override that monthly strong long strength I showed you on the overview. Okay, so just remember, if price does reach the target height level roughly in these areas, there is cause for concern in terms of that strong long strength on the monthly chart. And in that case, I will start questioning the legitimacy of that weekly long bias also. Okay, but I'll keep you guys updated with this one. Okay, so let's go on to the dollar CAD. Okay, and if you're having trouble understanding what I'm talking about in terms of weekly biases and lower time frame confirmations, please watch my price action trading course. That course is designed to provide you the necessary information so you can understand how to trade price action. Okay, this is a monthly chart. We'll start off with an overview. So since there was a trendline breakout confirmation of normal long strength from this pivot to this pivot right here, with a breakout and immediate break back in. However, this type of consolidating price action is common price action that formed before price falls right down to that pivot low right here to make strong short strength. And so in the long term, I'm short biased right back down to this pivot low right here. And moreover, since there was a new daily bias that formed, where there was a long trade that formed right here, and a slightly stronger short trade that formed right here, in the short term, I'm short biased right back down to this pivot low right here. Okay, let's talk entries. Okay, so on this weekly chart, the last short trade that formed was right here, while the last long trade that formed was right here. And this long trade was stronger than this short trade, so the weekly bias was long. Or in other words, price was likely to reach this pivot high before reaching this pivot low. And last week, that main target was hit right here. And now moreover, there's actually a new daily bias that formed between this pivot right here and this pivot also. So let me explain that to you. Let's go over to the daily chart. Okay, so on this daily chart, the last long trade that formed was right here. And following that, there were consecutive weaker short trades that formed all in these areas right here, which was along that weekly bias's long strength also. However, yesterday there was a new daily short trade that formed right here, which if I go strictly from this daily chart, seems to be slightly stronger than this last long trade. And so the daily bias for the time being is short. Or in other words, price is likely to reach this pivot low before reaching this pivot high. All right, so let me show you the elements in price that are providing short strength and moreover long strength. Let's go over to the monthly chart. Okay, so on this monthly chart, that daily long trade formed in this area right here, and that daily short trade formed in this area. Now, in terms of short strength, you can see there's two miniature gaps right here that are providing short strength for that short trade. And moreover, there's a legitimate trend line from this pivot to this pivot right here. Okay, and moreover, in terms of long strength for this long daily trade, there was only this miniature gap right here providing long strength. However, when you're determining the strength of a bias, you also want to subtract the opposing strength also. So as you can see, there's a medium-sized gap right here, which actually takes away some short strength from this short trade. And similarly, we have the same thing happening on the long trade, where there's a medium gap right here that's subtracting strength long from this long trade. Okay, so as you can see, it's quite complicated to derive the strength of each trade. However, in my opinion, there's ever so slightly more short strength than what's provided by that daily long trade's long strength. Okay, but let's remember that the ultimate say in terms of higher time frame biases are dictated by the lower time frame confirmation. So let's go ahead and see what's happening there. Let's go over to the 4-hour chart. Okay, so on this 4-hour chart, before I explain to you what I'll be looking for in terms of lower confirmation for the daily bias, let me explain to you why I did not take a short entry along with that weekly bias I was explaining last week. Okay, so if that weekly bias was short, that stop loss would have been at this pivot high, which would have been a nice short entry if I were to enter a short entry at these levels right here. However, there was extreme long strength confirmed in these areas right here, and so I did not take this short entry. I'll go ahead and show you that. So try drawing this trend line from this pivot to this pivot right here. As you can see, there's a breakout, an immediate break back in, going normal, long strength. However, price came right back down to stop out that pivot low, creating strong short strength. However, at the same time, there was a legitimate 1 hour V-shaped recovery that formed, which actually shows extreme long strength. And so right at this point right here where that V-shaped recovery long was confirmed, that weekly bias long was confirmed, and thus I didn't take that short entry. Okay. Alright, so in terms of lower confirmation for that daily bias, I'm looking at this trend line from this pivot to this pivot right here. Now if we could get a breakout, an immediate break back in, going normal, long strength, our price pulls right back down to that pivot low. That will create strong short strength and thus confirm a daily short bias. However, in this case, I will need a nice pullback to that daily bias's pivot high right here for a short entry, with this main target at the daily bias's long trades pivot low at lower levels. Okay, and you want to remember the reason why I can't take a mid-road entry in this case is because there is no overarching strength on the higher time frames. And so in other words, those mid-road entries where the stop loss can be placed at the pivot where strong strength was created can only be applied when there's overarching strength on the higher time frames. Okay, so just please keep that in mind. And I'll keep you guys updated with this setup also. Alright, let's go on to the Euro-USD pair. Okay, this is the monthly chart. We'll start off with an overview. So since this price action right here is very strong short, and this move still having a ways to go in the long term, I'm short biased right back down to this pivot low right here. And move on the weekly chart, since there was a fake HNS that formed that actually reached this target height level. In the short term, I'm also short biased right back down to this pivot low right here. Okay, let's talk entries. Okay, this is a daily chart. So the last daily bias that formed was this short trade right here against this long trade right here. And going strictly from this daily bias, this long trade was stronger than this short trade. However, the lower time frames confirmation confirmed the daily short bias. So in other words, price was likely to reach this pivot low right here before reaching this pivot high. Now let me go ahead and show you what happened on the lower time frames in this area, and moreover how I traded this consolidation area for the last 2 weeks. Let's go over to the 4-hour chart. Okay, so on this 4-hour chart, that daily long trades pivot low was at this price level right here. Now initially, if you guys recall, I did take a short entry about 2 weeks ago, roughly at these 0550 levels right here with the stop loss at this pivot high. As you can see, strong 4-hour long strength was confirmed right here with a breakout of this trend line from this pivot to this pivot right here. As you can see, there's a breakout, an immediate break back in, and that pivot high was actually reached right here, creating strong long strength. However, I was able to get out of this position a little bit early, roughly on the close of this break back in candle right here. And now at this point, this strong long confirmation was confirming that daily bias to be long. And so I was mentioning I'll be willing to take a long entry if we get a nice pullback to that stop loss level right here. And so as price ranged about and came over down here on this day right here, price did pull back close to that stop loss level. However, first of all, this was an NFP day, so I would not take a long entry based on the NFP pullback. And moreover, there was actually strong short strength confirmed from this trend line from this pivot to this pivot right here, with a breakout and immediate break back in right here. Our price came right back down to stop out that pivot low and thus creating strong short strength. And so at this point, the lower confirmations were now confirming that daily bias to be short. And so although price came back multiple times close to an entry level, I'll be willing to take a short entry with a stop loss at this pivot high where this is a mid-road short entry along with that weekly strong short strength. However, by about 10 pips, it did not reach an entry level that I would be willing to take. And then eventually throughout the week, price came down to hit that daily bias's main target right here. Okay, so just remember, in consolidating markets, lower time frame confirmation could continuously show opposing strength, making it very difficult to confirm a higher time frame's bias. But moreover, just remember that this type of situation is rather uncommon. Okay, so at this point, I'll be waiting for a weekly or daily new long trade to form, so I could come up with a new bias on the daily or weekly chart, whether long or short. Okay, so that's it for the weekly forecast. At the current moment, all Forex pairs are at a conjunction point, where it's trying to decide the direction for the next big move. So now is the time to really be in depth and detailed with our analysis. Okay, so in other words, we want to begin looking for hints in current price that tell us the direction of that next big move. Okay, so for example, we want to ask ourselves, for example, on the Euro Yen, if that monthly long strong strength is intact or not. Okay, and we could do that by watching current price. So for example, if we use a mid-row long entry on the Euro Yen, and if that stop loss level that is very small actually does not get hit, that shows that there is strong long strength on that pair, and thus that'll tell us that for the next couple of months we can expect a further move up on the pair. Okay, so I hope you guys have a great week, and thanks for watching, guys. Okay, bye.